Thanks for making it. Thanks for stopping in today to the Secret Restaurant Podcast. Unfortunately, I will be your host once again. Award-winning poet, two-time Best of the Net nominee, one-time Pushcart nominee, and one-time winner of the Betty Abraham Memorial Prize for the Academy of American Poets Poetry Award, Nate Hoyle. Well, thanks for having me, man. This really means a lot. It really brightened my day when you asked me to come on to this podcast. Because, for a moment there, I thought that everyone was trying to ignore me. And, I met a lot of people and don't really talk to any of them. I've met a lot of people and I don't talk to any of them. And they don't talk to me. So I'm glad that you could have me on this show and we could really get into the details of what it is to get another cross-city trip to the small theater here. Geez, they should start paying me the amount of times I talk about this place. This will be the last time. Last Picture House, downtown Davenport. This will be the last time. I'm just kidding. I hope that place stays open, so... If anybody's in the Quad City area.
Yeah, dude, we were on tour in the fucking Quad Cities or something. We were in the fucking Quad Cities or some random place or the fucking middle of Quad City, random shit, going on tour, random place. I'm trying to think of a random place we were at, maybe the Quad City.
It is pretty cool if you go there, though, to the Last Picture House, because every time I've seen 4 movies there now. It's 2 theaters. Or 2 screens, and then they play movies on the roof, but I haven't done that. But whenever they start the movie, they have this montage of all the times that movies have name dropped the Quad Cities. So I had already seen some of them, the iconic ones like Tommy Boy. There's a scene where, what's his name? David Spade is trying to figure out how to get to Davenport, but his map is Illinois. And so he doesn't understand that the map doesn't go to Iowa. So he's getting all pissed off. That was one. There's another one that was in a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, his first one. John C. Reilly calls from a payphone in Rock Island. But there's 10 of them that they all go through all these random things of in the area they get name dropped. I mean, there's not a ton. But I think the people who opened the theater are from the Quad Cities or maybe Iowa City. And then they work in Hollywood or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah, dude, I mean, you and I both know going on tour to places random fucking Quad Cities, being out there fucking Quad Cities or some shit.
But yeah, dude, Friday, put my socks on, put my shoes on, and then I just walked right downtown along the Mississippi River. And went to that movie. I didn't even tell you what it was. It's the one that was by, because they only play 2 at a time, and then the one they play on the roof is old one usually, they were playing Labyrinth, or they did Big Lebowski, or it's old movies on the roof, and then inside the theaters they have new ones. So the film I saw was called Weapons. Seems to be a buzzing movie because just from social media I keep on seeing people share it, and then when I posted I saw it, people were liking it. But it's the director who did Barbarian. Dude, Barbarian was one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of scary movies. That movie was terrifying, dude. I would say that Weapons is a step down. It's more just an action thriller, but when it gets violent, it's super graphic. Oh, not a step down in overall rating wise, but a step down in that Barbarian, people probably have nightmares watching that one. Whereas this one, Weapons, it had some Stephen King vibes. It had some fantasy-esque vibes. It's kind of essentially about a witch. I hope that doesn't spoil it. I'm not going to delete it. But one thing I found interesting when I was reading about this Weapon movie. And it's got another 30-something-year-old actress in it. The girl from Ozarks. I can't remember her name. She's 31. There you go. Maybe us 30, us born in the 90s, maybe we just needed a little more time to make our way through the intricate systems of burned out old actors. I was reading about this Weapons movie, and one thing I found is that the inspiration from it actually came from a novel that I've talked about in this podcast. There were other things like film related that it was inspired by, but one of the inspirations listed by the director was this book by an author named Jennifer Egan called A Visit from the Goon Squad, which I've talked about on here and I've talked about in my life a million times because it's probably top 5 novels I've ever read. But it's like a rock and roll novel about it. So I think the way, at first when I read it was inspired, that this Weapons movie was inspired by A Visit from the Goon Squad. I was like searching my mind trying to figure out how that could possibly be. But I think the way that it is inspired is that the film takes place. It's like a series of interlinked vignettes. Like it'll say the character's name, and then that character will have like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, I don't know. The whole movie was a little over 2 hours. But it'll have their name, and then it'll have their story, and then it'll end, and then it'll have another character's name. But it's all taking place in the span of like 48 hours in the same city or small town or whatever. And so Visit from the Goon Squad, it's a novel, but it's more almost reads as like a short story collection where they're all revolving around these stories in relation to this record producer from the 80s till it came out in like 2008. But the vignettes kind of surround this guy, whereas this Weapons movie, all the little scenes revolve around this event of all these children disappearing. And so it goes through like the teacher of the class that all the people disappeared. It does like the principal, it does this cop, it does this like kind of drug addict dude. And it goes through these like vignettes. But I thought it was done really well where that it didn't feel like they were totally disjointed. It actually flowed beginning to end in a way that was like, it still felt like one script or one story. Script. Felt like one script. I saw Jennifer Egan read, the author of Visit from the Goon Squad. I saw her read from her novel Manhattan Beach in Iowa City when she came there. And it was so funny. I'll never forget this. So she read a portion early on in the book, or maybe even the first chapter, because that's what they do a lot, is they read even the first chapter. And then they do like a Q&A afterwards. And the first thing she says is like, I just need to say this, because it happens all the time when we do questions, like no spoilers, please. And then literally the first dude to raise his hand, it was like, I don't know how old he was, but he was like probably in his 60s or 70s maybe. But he raised his hand, he asked his question, and he literally, first person to ask a question, spoiled the end of the book. I feel like she kept her composure, but she was like, are you joking? Yeah, I'm a big fan of her. Goon Squad was good. I remember, I need to go through and read them all again, because she only has maybe 8 novels or something. I would have to go through them. 6 or 8 novels or something. But the one I remember is called Look at Me, and it's about this model she gets in an accident and she has to do facial reconstructive surgery, and so she doesn't look like herself anymore. A couple of people wrote books like that. So that Jennifer Egan one, it's like she gets her surgery and she's unrecognizable, but like still like she looks like she could be a model or whatever. But you know, models, their face is their moneymaker. And then the completely opposite end of that, Chuck Palahniuk wrote The One Invisible Monsters, that like it disfigured a model so that they were like hideous. That's the male and female approach of that same narrative. But yeah, after I read that book by Jay McInerney, that Bright Lights Big City, I started kind of becoming interested in the sort of, I think both him and Jennifer Egan were like in New York City in the 90s and were like writing for major publications and involved in that scene that did have a lot of like models involved. or like Jay McInerney. I think he dated models, and then one of them actually was attacked and slashed in her face. Sorry, this is content warning or whatever, but yeah, it was like a random stalker or a random act of violence or something. And she's a writer too, actually. She wrote like movie scripts too, I guess. But then Jay McInerney also wrote that script. He wrote that script with what's her name? I'm so bad at saying people's names on the spot. Angelina Jolie played that model that what was that movie called? It was like an HBO movie. Gia. And she was like a super influential model in New York, and then she ended up getting AIDS. Because she was like addicted to heroin. That movie was crazy. Talking about this and that and this over here, which reminds me of this and that.
We've all been there in the middle of buttfuck Quad Cities on tour. Just in the middle of fucking Quad City nowhere.
Thank you to everyone who has supported Pizza Summer 2025. That's been a pretty solid success in my book. No pun intended. We still have some available, and I'm mailing 2 more out today. So you can find those however you choose. I'm not sure if I'm going to do more of them. I'll have to decide. I did 4. And I think it's time for me to start writing for GQ. I'm going to write an article for GQ about men in turtlenecks with their melancholy look that they don't want to look cute. And so they just look sad instead. Men don't want to look cute, so they choose sadness or melancholy thoughtfulness. I think this was since the last time I talked to you guys, but I think I had a car at the moment because I have been having to borrow my mom's car, and so I don't really have one most of the time. And so I drove out to Barnes and Noble, literally just to see what was on their newsstand. There's not enough newsstands anymore. Like, I know it's for obvious reasons, and how many people you know still read magazines and stuff, which is unfortunate. They're kind of expensive. Or actually, I think it was always if you subscribed to it, even back in the 2000s when I was subscribed to like heavy metal magazines and snowboarding magazines and shit. If you subscribed to it, it was like for the same cost as like one issue. So it's probably still like that now. But if you go on a newsstand, it's like some of these magazines are like $20. So you get a novel for that. Dude, I think the Paris Review is like $30. It's way too much. It's way too much for a publication that keeps on rejecting me. I try not to get too jaded. But I went to a newsstand. The first one I thought of was Barnes & Noble because that's probably the best one. When you go to like Walgreens and stuff, they have some stuff, but it's like, usually garbage. Or I mean like obviously grocery stores have gossip column shit. That's not what I was looking for. But yeah, I went to Barnes & Noble, which I had looked at it plenty of times. And they have, the one in Davenport has a huge selection. Like they have 2 whole, you can't really even call them racks because they're huge shelves with them displayed. But they have 2 with like, cooking and then men's interest, women's interest. They got the dirty stuff, which I'm always afraid to even pick up. not for the reason, dude. When I went to not an estate sale, it was like a vintage sale. I think I talked about it. There were all these old like Hustlers and Playboys, and I really wanted to go through them just to see who was on the covers and stuff, because it was like 70s actresses. Obviously, you can find some of those online, but I want to just look at them. But of course, I'm not going to touch old magazines like that. It would be a cool thing to start collecting, if only that they weren't used. And you know what I mean by used, don't ya? But yeah, man, I think this is true. People might roll their eyes at me or whatever, but I feel like with how things are today, with like all the OnlyFans shit and like all like basically just pictures of someone's ass, and then that's like how people make money. Do your thing, do whatever you need to do. But like, I feel like when you look at Playboy now, especially like the 90s, 80s ones, it's like not even sarcastic. It's like an art form. Like, even when you look at the centerfold and shit, like, and I'm talking about, I like, look at it online. Because you can find a lot of them and, like, you can look at the whole thing online. Like, obviously, it's like super pornographic. But, like, even the way that they shoot it with, like, the cameras and the sets and stuff, like, just thinking about Playboy even in comparison to, like, the OnlyFans shit or, like, the Instagram shit that people post to get likes and stuff. Like, I really do think that Playboy is now actually, like, a literary magazine. I mean, they always publish super high-name authors. Like, they published, like, Margaret Atwood and, like, Kurt Vonnegut. Dennis Johnson published his Nobody Move in Playboy, that novel. So it's always been technically literary, but then it's always like the joke, like, oh, I just read it for the articles, which is like, okay, yeah, sure, dude. But like, honestly, when you look at those magazines, like the photography in it and the way that they set it up compared to what people are looking at on their phones now, like, it really is like artistic in comparison. But yeah, I don't think those type of magazines will ever lose that connotation. And they're all probably trying to outdo each other too now. And then they're competing with Instagram and stuff. I just think it's interesting, like, that kind of culture was so frowned upon. And obviously I'm looking at it from like a male lens. But when you kind of look at the 90s ones and stuff, it's like really, like, it is real photography. And it is real, like, sets and real thoughtfulness, and not just like a picture of yoga pants or whatever people post. Is that reversely misogynistic shitting on OnlyFans? Shitting on OnlyFans. I'm just in awe at the female form. The woman is a piece of art. Yeah, I went to the newsstands just to see what was popping there. I need to start doing more paid article writing, because I always wind up doing like shit I don't want to. Like website clickbait, SEO bullshit, or like longer works that aren't the same. I want to actually do something that's like I write something under my name in a magazine. It's overdue, man. I'm trying to think of what was on there. So they had a ton of GQ. Yeah, they did have like Maxim and stuff. A lot of like racing, F1 and like NASCAR and all that. A whole lot of firearm magazines. Like, I feel like that was a huge section. What else? Yeah, I'll have to go back and think about it. I didn't buy anything. I just literally wanted to see what was being sold there and see if it would draw any inspiration for my own endeavors. There's literary stuff, too. There's, like, mystery magazines, sci-fi magazines, fantasy and whatnot. Plenty of sports. Whole lot of sports. Dude, you know what's funny? Because I was talking about the White Sox a few episodes back, and two of the players that I was praising are on the injured list now. And I was watching the at-bat when Chase Mydroff got hit in the thumb, and it was like, you know, that happens a lot. And it's the same process. It's like the player gets hit in the hand, and then it's usually like adrenaline and shock, and you're watching them and their hands shaking, and you don't know how bad it is. But I feel like that time he got hit right in the thumb, and then I'm watching them take way too long looking at his hand, and then they take his glove off, and I'm like, damn it. That's going to be one of the bad ones. Because I've seen it. I mean, I've watched a lot of baseball, but I've probably seen like 4 or 5 times this year where someone's gotten hit in the hand and they have to like check it out, and then they go to first base. And that time he wasn't in for the next inning, and I was like, God damn it. Because he's one of the younger players that's really fun to watch. And then also Vargas has been out, Miguel Vargas. And so I think they were on a 6-game losing streak, and then they won last night. Finally pulled that one off. So here's to hoping that those dudes are getting back into shape. I'm so sick of the Milwaukee Brewers, dude. What the hell? They have like the best record of like unnaturally, what are they? They're like 30-10 or some crazy record in the last 40 games. Like an absurd win streak. And it wouldn't be annoying if now they're 6 games ahead of the Cubs, and the Cubs have like one of the best records in the MLB, and they're still 6 games back in their division. And then on top of that, that Vaughn dude that started the season out in the Sox and was batting like 170, now he's like literally hitting like 10 home runs. freaking annoying, dude. I'm so tired of the Brewers. And I've never been to Milwaukee, but I like Wisconsin, and I feel like if the Brewers weren't in the Cubs division, or even if they are, like I feel like Midwest teams like that, like the Brewers, or I like when the Pirates win. It's hard when you have your divisions that are like locational, because a lot of those places are places that are close to you. Like you want to root for Midwest teams, but then you can't because now they go 6 games ahead of the Cubs, who are at the same record as like the Dodgers right now, but still 6 games back. Freaking Brewers! What did they even do? How did they get on this run? They picked up a player from the Sox on the second worst team in the MLB. Yeah, the Cubs have been bumming me out though. I feel like they're struggling, even though I think that they are maybe 1 game behind the Dodgers. Like I think they're 1 game behind a lot of those teams, and then they have a better record than the Astros. And then the Brewers are on like literally god level run. But I've been bummed out watching the Cubs. It's been hard to watch. I think the pitcher Shota's gonna. He got injured. He started the season off just like killing it, and then he got injured and he came back and he's been struggling, I think. And a lot of their usual bats have not been hitting well. But one thing that I was stressed out about that it was speculated and it didn't happen is they brought a third baseman up. I'm so bad at first names. His last name is Shaw, and he's like a really good fielder. And then he still needs to work on his batting probably. But they were talking of trading him and they didn't, and so that's been a good thing. Because I think he's probably one of the most exciting players on the Cubs to watch right now. A lot of those dudes that are supposed to be the killers are just doing mediocre ball playing. It's a lull in the season, right? Once they get ramped up to the end of the season, things are going to get revved up again. Kind of been rambling, but I did want to talk about one more film that everyone's been talking about. And so I watched Happy Gilmore again. Happy Gilmore was the one, literally 3rd, 4th grade. When I was that age, I think I heard every quote in all those Adam Sandler movies before I even saw them all. Because that's what every dude in my class was quoting those movies. You too good for your home? I wish I would have thought of them beforehand. But yeah, like Happy Gilmore, Waterboy, and Billy Madison. Dude, Billy Madison is a perfect movie. I think even outside of comedy, I mean, it's a comedy, so you have to analyze the comedy of it. But if you look at it in comparison to all those kind of like SNL movies that are basically running on a series of skits, a series of bits, Billy Madison, front to back, every single bit is like one of the funniest in a movie. Like the kid's trying to read, and he's stuttering, and then Billy Madison, he goes, today, Junior. I don't think I realized watching that as a person who's that age how mean that is, and then watching it as an adult, it's like so fucking funny, dude. Yeah, and then like the shampoo and conditioner thing. If peeing your pants is cool, consider me Miles Davis. Yeah, dude, I can't even explain it. I mean, obviously I only grew up one place, but I'm sure that it wasn't the only place. Like literally my middle school, every single day those quotes were being said by kids of all those movies, especially, yeah, Waterboy too. Which that one I can't really remember that many off the top of my head. But kids could do the Adam Sandler impression, and did a lot. But going into the Happy Gilmore 2, I was a little bit hesitant. Not because I didn't think that it had the potential to be good, but because of how many cameos it seemed like they were almost advertising the movie strictly on how many cameos there were in it. So I was kind of worried that it would end up being like not funny and just like a big Hollywood party. Like, do I really need to see Post Malone in Happy Gilmore 2? I don't think so. Even Eminem, I was like, okay. Like, can't Eminem do a different movie that's not already a franchise that's gonna make a bunch of money? And I love Eminem, but I don't know. So I was kind of hesitant, but then I ended up watching it, and I gotta say, it was pretty solid. It came through. Some of the parts are kind of out there, like it goes through like it's a new type of golf that's like more extreme or something. And those parts were kind of like fantastic or whatever, but I will say I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thought it was really funny. And it was directed by the dude who did Workaholics, and that's one of my favorite comedy TV shows. So that's badass for him. Wonder what he's been doing other than that, because Workaholics was off the air probably even 7 or 8 years ago, and then they did that one movie, and then I think from listening to podcasts, they're having some trouble getting a movie made that they wanted to make. Wow. Deep online Nate. All right, that's all I got. Yeah, I'm gonna have to keep. I think I'm gonna keep doing the movie theater thing. I'm gonna go walk down there. It's about 2 miles. Don't have a car. Just gonna walk along the Mississippi and see what one of 2 movies are playing there. And I'm gonna order 1 beer. And I'm gonna sit by myself, and I'm gonna watch a movie, and then I'm gonna walk home. I think that's my new thing. I do think with my crazy ADHD brain, that's I don't know if you can tell from listening to this, but sometimes I can get a little scattered with my thoughts. But with my ADHD brain, it's hard for me to just sit and watch TV. But for some reason, this theater with like the sound and stuff, I think we've been missing that. I think the slow, out of business trend of movie theaters really did us a disservice. And I think that you, specifically you listening to this, should probably go see a movie sometime. Because just with the big screen and the sound, and then you're not really, anytime someone's on their phone in a theater, they're like a huge asshole to me. So I have that in my mind. I don't get on my phone, even if I think of something that I want to check it for. Just turn that thing off. Let the surround sound envelop you. It also helps that every single movie I've seen has actually been enjoyable. So, gonna do that some more. All right, gonna go. See you later. Bye.